Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Queer Spirit video. Today, we're going to be talking about one of our queer ancestors, Marsha P Johnson, one of the heroes of the Stonewall riots. Marsha is usually referred to with the pronouns she, her, and hers, which I will also be doing today, but it's a little bit hard to know what she would identify with in the current language. During the 60s and 70s, she referred to herself as a drag queen and a transvestite, but we use the term drag queen differently now, and we generally don't use the term transvestite at all. So I think it's clear she'd be somewhere in the transgender / non-binary umbrella, but we don't know exactly. So Marsha was born in 1945 and grew up in a conservative Christian African-American family in New Jersey. When she graduated from high school in 1963, she took $15 and a bag of clothes and moved to New York City. In New York City, she made money waiting tables and engaging in sex work, and she lived on the streets. She sometimes slept under the flower sorting tables in the floral district, which began her habit of wearing flowers in her hair, which was a thing she did for most of her life. She was one of the regular patrons of the Stonewall Inn, which was a gay bar in New York City at the time. And at the time, there were regular police raids on gay bars in the city, so the police would just show up and arrest everybody who didn't manage to run away in time. And for a long time, this was seen as an inevitable injustice by the patrons of the various queer establishments in the city, until they began fighting back. And one of those times of fighting back, the iconic one, is the Stonewall riots in 1969. So this began on June 29th, 1969, when the police showed up and the patrons of the bar decided to fight back instead of running away or being arrested, and began throwing bricks and bottles at the police, which touched off a series of riots every night from June 29th to July 4th. Lots of people think it was actually Marsha who threw the first brick on the first night, but she says it wasn't. She says she heard the riot was happening, went and got her best friend Sylvia Rivera, who we'll hear more about next week, and the two of them arrived 40 minutes after the beginning of the riot on the first night. There is a story that she threw a shot glass at a mirror one night, which was quite dramatic and became the shot glass heard around the world. There's another story that on the second night of the riots, she climbed a street lamp with a brick in her purse and then dropped it from the top of the lamp onto the windshield of a police car and smashed it. It was a pretty chaotic scene, of course, these nights of rioting, so it's hard to know exactly where any particular person was or exactly what any particular person did, but we know she was present. We know she was part of encouraging others to fight back as well. After the Stonewall riots, she continued to live in New York City on the streets. People who knew her said she was usually peaceful and fun and kind, but she also had an aggressive, angry streak that led some people to wonder if she suffered from mental illness. She and Sylvia Rivera started an organization called Street Transvestites Action Revolution, or STAR, which was founded to support queer youth in New York City. Marsha continued to make money through sex work and also as a drag performer, and she used the money that she made to pay the rent for the youth in her care to have shelter while she continued living on the streets. She was also a mentor to the youth in STAR and a drag mother to many of them, even the ones who weren't themselves drag performers. So in other words, an adopted mother, chosen family mother. She participated in the Christopher Street Liberation Rally in 1970, which was the first anniversary of the Stonewall riots, and basically the first Pride Parade. They've been happening every year since then, and eventually we started calling them Pride Parades, and they're all over the world now. She participated in 1970 and every year after that, but in 1973, the organizers of the march decided that drag queens and transvestites, in the language of the day, were attracting negative publicity and giving the gay rights movement a bad name. And so they banned Marsha P Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and all other drag queens and transvestites from marching in the parade. Marsha and Sylvia responded to this by walking just ahead of the official beginning of the parade, not to be kept out of their own movement. Thank you very much. In the 1980s, Marsha became an activist with ACT UP, fighting for better care and research for people living with AIDS. And she continued that work until she was killed in 1992. I want to thank the website World Queerstory for the information for today's biography. So, Marsha P Johnson, one of our queer ancestors, important to remember her as someone who decided to fight back against injustice, and also as someone who cared very much for the coming generations, deciding to mentor and mother the children who came after her, and give them shelter even when she had none of her own. So Marsha P. Johnson, we honor your legacy. Thank you for everything you've brought to us. Thank you for watching.